What do you think the number one topic for conversation was during the press briefing?
There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make.
Yeah, because they didn't care much about it. Because they probably thought, well, we got some guys and gals in there probably, who've maybe done some stuff. And the other side of it was they didn't take it, I think, super serious. They thought it was a QAnon thing. Probably whispers around the hall, but it was more a QAnon kind of thing than anything else. And it turned out not to be. And it's not a hoax by the Democrats. They didn't write this up. Trump kind of going, well, this is Comey and everything. No, it wasn't. They didn't come up with this. It's been around much longer than that. And it was just sitting there. Because the powers that be that were strong enough to put this thing away made sure that it went away.
The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions. And they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president...
Now, be honest with me, people, okay? Do you believe there's just no there there? I'm not saying Trump is involved in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying across the board that he killed himself. There was no there there. She's in jail for whatever reason, and we're all moving on. And it was a hoax or any of that. Do you really believe that? I don't think any of you do, because you're smart enough to understand that's not true. They're using it for political gain because you'd be stupid not to.
And if there's nothing there, show me the files and I'll find out that there's nothing there. I'll be like, oh, I was a dumbass for believing that.
Yeah. Or whatever files you have. But this is now starting to get people that were involved in the case talking about it, including several of the attorneys of the victims who are coming out saying, yeah, there's a lot more there. And we thought this was going to be more about accountability.
We've said that for years, that Epstein could not have run a 20-plus year sex trafficking operation without the assistance of others. And so that's what we're seeing here now. We're seeing a bipartisan call for the information that's underneath this that will disclose how this went on for so long without accountability.
Without accountability. But there's nothing. We've looked. There's nothing.
We also know that the government has seized his computers. And of course, on those computers, you're going to see people who were communicating with him, emailing with him, people he was giving money to, people who were giving money to him. All of that information is really critical. And I think that's what the outcry is for now. The outcry is for that information to be disclosed.
And I don't think that the Democrats paid that much attention to it. Like I said, it was a QAnon thing, is the way that a lot of people looked at it. Then it became a little bit more mainstream. It went from the Alex Jones world and jumped over to, the Rogans talking about it. Then the Andrew Schultz talking about it. And then Theo Vaughn's talking about it. And then Tim Dillon's talking about it. All of a sudden, it picked up steam. And then you had Kash Patel and Rogan talking about it. Then you had J.D. Vance talking about it with Theo Vaughn. Then you had Dan Bongino making a lot of hay with it. So you come out and you deliver a dud. And you delivered a dud when you handed all of those people phase one. And then it was nothing to see here. 20 years. You're delaying 20 years. And the former attorney of Epstein, the one who said he was part of intelligence, not that, the one who prosecuted, said, when all is said and done, he'll go down as arguably the worst pedophile sex trafficker in American history. I don't think that justice has been done. Now, do I know that Trump was involved in anything? No. I think the problem is he weighed in a way because Pam Bondi really screwed this thing up. And why he's protecting her so much, she kind of threw the fire on this. She said, we got these files. We got thousands. So you can't tell me that you've got thousands of pictures and videos of heinous crimes, yet nobody's prosecuted. Outside of one man. Where are the co-conspirators? Where are the unindicted co-conspirators? And unfortunately, because the way that the Trump administration weighed into this, they've got a problem on their hand because it's become mainstream. It's landed at the foot of the people that, as we were talking about, murder porn. That sounds horrible, but that's those people who love to watch the ID channel. Is that what it's called? I think it's the ID channel. Who love to watch Dateline. Who love to watch, the documentaries about, the missing girls and things. It's now got to the point where those people are interested. You don't think that there's 100 podcasts getting ready to launch based strictly on this? I mean, the number one podcast year in and year out that wins all the awards and has huge, massive. When they talk about podcast downloads, Joe Rogan, as far as a show, is always usually one or two besides him is the murder one. Whichever murder one is the hot murder one of the year. That's the group now that is taking this up, which gets the average person who pays no attention to politics at all to pay attention to this, which means you're going to be answering questions a lot.
And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
That sounds great, but people could say, you know what could be more important? Well, or at least just as important, the victims who were diddled by dirty, stinky, grimy billionaires, heads of state, dictators, and maybe used by our government. That could be more important in some cases. When you ask some of those people.
You think Queen Elizabeth is looking down going, oh, I really screwed up with Andrew. I should have never punished him.
No. Isn't it weird that the only person who kind of got popped outside of Epstein was
Prince Andrew by his own
mother? The most useless of all of the royals. I mean, that was it. And they were like, if there's any way they could tie it to Meghan Markle, they would. Because she is awful. Have you ever seen anybody so sour in life? She is just, I've got everything. I hate the world.
My life is just so comfortable that I can't find any reason to be happy.
I'm mad. 5.